Truly amazing. That's all I have to say is truly amazing. Well, hello, everyone. My name's Rick Farmer, and I'm coming to you from the headquarters of the 6 screens of the Watchtower, the control panel right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And we're glad you're with us. Now, let me tell you what goes on here. If you never listened to the 6 screens and you are doubting what's going on in the Jehovah's Witness world, if you've already exited the Jehovah's Witness world, you have come to the right place. You are going to be experiencing something tonight that's one of a kind. You are going to be in what we kind of call it like a giant therapy session. You're going to be able to vent. You're going to be able to voice your thoughts in real time of how you endured the Watchtower organization. We have a woman. Well, she's an ex-Jehovah's Witness. Her name is Anne Marie. She lives out in Northern California, and she's been doing the program here. She's been doing the program now for over 6 years, and she has a great job. She has a lot of people, and we're so glad and proud to have her on our network. And now, if you have an opportunity to call into the program tonight, do that, please. Anne Marie would love to hear from you. So let's bring Anne Marie on right now. Hello, Anne Marie.
Hello, my brother Rick.
So,
Saturday.
Yes, well, thank you, Anne Marie. Now, Anne Marie, I'm going to let you introduce the subject tonight because it's a good subject. I'm glad you came up with that. What's the subject, Anne Marie?
I forgot it. I sent it to you.
Okay,
Basic.
it's called religious. I'm a little tongue tied here. Religious trauma in the Watchtower. Okay, religious trauma.
I think it's Watchtower induced trauma.
Well, let me take a look here at yeah, you're right. Watchtower induced trauma. So, what do you think, Anne Marie? I mean,
Any chance I can get a thumbnail on the show today? Because
yeah,
if there's a chance.
well, yeah, there will be when I
Wondering.
yeah when I put it up, I'll put it up tomorrow for so it'll be on there. So,
you.
what are you thinking here, Anne Marie? You think there's religious? Maybe you might be want to try to explain what that is to some degree, but do you think that people do suffer religious trauma and they endure religious trauma? Did you?
I do believe so when I really look at it with clear eyes and without emotion and without excuses. I think that most of us suffered from trauma from being in the Watchtower, just trying to be a good Jehovah's Witness, looking for validation. We were always looking outside ourselves and we weren't our authentic selves. And we suffered anxiety, depression, you know, the whole schmeal. But they would kind of put it to us in a way that whatever problems you had were your fault. And we're proving that somehow you were defective. You weren't doing enough. You weren't good enough. You weren't studying enough. It was always your fault.
Well, in fact, I'm sitting listening and I agree with everything you just said. Now, about 3 weeks ago, here on our JW World News program, I had a video of a man that is deconstructing from the Watchtower. Now, I didn't really understand too much about when I think about deconstruction. I was thinking about that could apply to taking a home apart, demolishing it. But when you hear the word deconstruction, I didn't know it was generally applied to religion. And right now, what a lot of people are doing is they're deconstructing from the religion, not just the Jehovah's Witnesses, but the Jehovah's Witnesses have more of it going on than others. And that is with all of these changes that the Watchtower has made in the last year, couple of years, really, a lot of people aren't buying it. And they're really having almost like a nervous breakdown. And it's kind of like trauma. It is. I mean, if you're suffering from a nervous breakdown and your nerves can't handle all of the overload you're putting on them, it's trauma to some degree. So maybe you'll get some people calling in tonight that presently are deconstructing, Anne Marie.
Yeah, I think really the largest group growing among the rank and file of the Watchtower are the PIMQs, those who are still physically in the Watchtower, but they're mentally questioning. And it's when I say mentally questioning, PIMQs have questions too, but they sock it down. They're trained to, oh, Jehovah will take care of it, or I don't want to have a bad attitude, or I need to pray for the right attitude. They have these programmed excuses to somehow make yourself believe that it's your weakness or you're letting Satan put doubts in your head. But the PIMQs are at the point where the concerns and the mental questions that they have are just causing almost static in their brain, because they're still believing in the Watchtower, but they know something is terribly wrong. And at the same time, the programming that Watchtower gives is, if you have any of these doubts or whatever, Satan's trying to take over your mind. It's like fear. There's so much fear involved in being a PIMQ. At least the PUMOs, those who are physically in but mentally out, they are already knowing exactly what the Watchtower really and truly is: a very evil, tyrannical, dictatorial, and controlling organization that is all about, you better keep in step and be loyal to the party or else. And they know it, and they're living basically a double life. And kudos to them, but I couldn't do it, because I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not saying they're hypocrites, but who can go into evil and smile and act like you agree with everything when it's just basically vomit from the devil?
Well, that is, in fact, we talked a little bit about that last week, that is ultimate mind control. But when you have people who even understand how evil you are, and yet you're still able to control their mind and get them to the kingdom hall, even though they don't believe it, but you got them so frightened with fear and so much control over them that they stay in. So it's going to be very fascinating what you're going to talk to tonight, Anne-Marie. So I'm here if you need me. I'll cut you loose. Just kind of speak up and say, Rick, come on. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would love to have your input, my brother, because you're really good at it.
Well, thank you. All right, I'm out of here already. We got a lot of people coming in already, Anne-Marie. Something just before I cut you loose. I'm not exaggerating. Yeah. People probably say, "Oh, Ricky," I'm not exaggerating, folks. Let me tell you something. I've been doing this program for 20 years. I have never seen anything like I see right now. There must be. I don't have the reason. I don't understand why so many people are listening in. I know they love you, Anne-Marie. I know they do. But all of a sudden, I think it's because there's more witnesses that are leaving. I think there's so many leaving right now. They're trying to find answers. That's the only thing I can really think of. I mean, we did some nice short videos on Facebook and YouTube that were good, but I don't think that's what's doing it. But let me just give you some numbers here, then I'll cut you loose. Anne-Marie, last week, we had over 7,000 people listen to the 6 screens. Can you imagine that?
Of course I can.
That's a regional convention. And, we're different than the other people who work their butts off too, making their YouTube videos. They do a good job. Mike and Kimmy and Equalizer and all these people, they do very good. But what we have here is a program. Some of these programs last for 2 hours, and people listen in all the time. It's not like a 5-minute news bleep. People listen in all the time, so they like the idea, Anne-Marie, of people calling in. They love it when the people call in, and you get a lot of people calling in. So I'll step aside and let you take it. I'm here if you need me.
Oh, bless your heart, and I really appreciate that, my brother Rick. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. 6 Screen Saturday, the best day of the week as far as I'm concerned. Today is April 18th, 2026. This is the first show of the weekend on the 6 Screens. This is touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower, as we all were. And I just, before I get into anything, I praise Rick and I remind him as much as I can get away with that he is fulfilling the scriptures in Ephesians chapter 5. And I am not preaching, but I am going to read it. Ephesians 5, starting in verse 6 in the New World Translation. And if you're a PIMQ, if you're having questions but still faithful to the Watchtower, I hope you listen to what your own Bible says at Ephesians 5, beginning in verse 6. Let no man or governing body deceive you with empty words, for because of such things the wrath of God is coming upon the sons of disobedience. Therefore do not be sharers with them, for you were once darkness, but you are now light in connection with the Lord. And we know that's Jesus. So go on walking as children of light. Remember, Jesus said in John 8:12 that he's the light of the world. And as long as we go walking with him, we won't walk in darkness. So scripture says, verse 8 of chapter 5 of Ephesians, go on walking as children of light, for the fruitage of the light consists of every sort of goodness and righteousness and truth. If you love God and if you're truly sincere in wanting to be in the truth, then pay attention. Keep on making sure of what is acceptable to the Lord, and that is Jesus. And stop sharing in the unfruitful works that belong to the darkness. Rather, expose them for what they are. For the things they do in secret are shameful even to mention. Now, all the things that are being exposed are made evident by the light. For everything that is being made evident is light. Therefore, it is said, awake, O sleeper, spiritually asleep. Awake, O sleeper, and arise from the dead, and the Christ will shine upon you. Obviously, this is metaphoric. Awake from your sleep of being in this darkness. Arise from the dead. Don't be spiritually dead anymore, and the Christ will shine upon you. We know, and I tell Rick all the time, that he is fulfilling this scripture, that not sharing with them anymore in unfruitful works, but expose them for what they are. That's verse 11 of Ephesians 5. This is so important because when you are called by the Lord to do something, we are all called by the Lord to do something. And this is what Rick and his platform does. And all of us who work with Rick and share in his work in the Lord that he is doing, showing the truth, showing the light of the truth of what Watchtower is, exposing them, we are sharing and fulfilling what God wants. And that is to bring to light the ugly, the lies, the false prophecy, the evil that they hide. So today, I want to welcome everyone in. I always want to give a shout out to the PIMQs. PIMQs are not PIMEs. PIMEs are physically in, mentally in. They are staunch Jehovah's Witnesses. They are Watchtower loyalists, if you will. Their God is the governing body, and you can't tell them anything. And they don't want to know anything. All they want to do is follow the Watchtower no matter where it goes. But you know what the scripture says, if a blind man follows a blind man, both will fall off the cliff. So we know that this is a proclamation of showing the facts, showing the truth, no matter if they hate us or not. We want to go into the subject today of Watchtower trauma. And this involves specifically, in my mind, the PIMQs who are physically in Watchtower, but mentally questioning. They're at the point where they can't just keep swallowing down those worries, those concerns, those things they see that aren't right, things that they see that are changes, and why this and why that. They can't talk to anybody about it. PIMQs are very, very troubled, very traumatized, and I worry about them, and the group is growing. We know that the PUMOs physically in Watchtower, but mentally out. If they've already done the research, they've gone through the trauma of finding out that this true religion is actually a cult. It's a business. It's breaking in money. They lie. They manipulate. They punish. As long as you step out of line, you're okay. But they're just like the Gestapo. It's all about loyalty to the party. And the Gestapo enforcers are the elders. That's their job, to make sure that you never step out of the party line, because the first thing will get you in the quickest trouble is the suspicion of maybe you don't agree with something. You're an apostate. Do you believe the governing body is God's representative or whatever? That's all they care about. They don't care about loyalty to Jehovah. They don't care about loyalty to Jesus. They don't care about loyalty to the Bible. They want to know, are you a loyal party member? Or they will crucify you, destroy you, ruin your reputation, your name, your good name will be destroyed, and you lose your family, and everyone will see you as the most wicked of the wicked. That is disgusting. But today is Watchtower-induced trauma. That is the subject for today, and I would like to go over that. Before I get into it, because you know I talk a lot, I want to welcome my brothers and sisters, because I love you all so much. You are all part of the Watchtower ex-Jehovah's Witness 6 Screens family. Would anybody like to hit *6, say hello, share a thought, anything? So I want to give you that time and opportunity, and you know why, because this is your show. Anybody want to chime in, *6?
Anne-Marie, this is Donald from Texas.
Well, hey, Donald from Texas, where you been?
Doing good. Just keeping busy as usual. I've been busy working on the computer as I always do. And I'm glad to be a part of the show tonight. I really like coming on the show. I love the 6 Screens because, like you said, Rick is doing a great job exposing Watchtower and what they do. Because, like you said, too, they are evil. And as I've always said on here, they are the excrement of Satan. The Watchtower is Satan's excrement. So, yeah.
Great analogy. Did you say you were from Texas?
Yeah, I live in Texas, yes.
I love Texas. Donald, I've been kind of missing you. I feel like I haven't heard you in a while. And here you are. Well, how do you feel about the subject of Watchtower-induced trauma?
Well, since I never was a JW, I understand what it's about, but I never had experienced that sort of thing because I studied with them very briefly in the early 90s, and I didn't stay in very long because I didn't like the control that they exercised over me, or at least they tried to exercise over me by telling me who I could and could not associate with.
Yeah.
So I just didn't stay with it very long. I got out pretty quick. My mom, she thought that the reason why I got out was because of the holidays. I told her, I said, no. I said, not because of not celebrating Christmas or birthdays. I said, it's because of the control, because they were trying to draw me away from my friends and stuff, and I wouldn't have it. I'm not gonna do that.
Well, Daniel, you are way smarter than I am, and you must be, emotionally mature, because when we're sure of ourselves, when we have a strong sense of who we are, we have a strong sense of what feels right and what doesn't feel right, and we trust our gut. A lot of us didn't feel comfortable about, well, you need to cut association with your family or this and that if they won't listen to Job and so on. If you go along with something that goes against your natural gut, then to me, that's not having a real strong sense of who you are, maybe low self-esteem, a little bit of emotional immaturity, because why would you do something that totally goes against what you know in your gut is wrong, unless you feel like you need approval and validation? Go ahead.
And all this trauma too, if you think about by the time Christ never taught that kind of stuff. I mean, there's nowhere in the Bible that I know of where Christ actually said to join a specific religion, get rid of all your friends that are not in the religion, he never said such garbage, and he never taught such garbage. And yet, Watchtower thinks they're Christian, and they think it's okay to tell people to just cut off your mother and your father if they're not witnesses. Don't visit your neighbor anymore because they're not a JW. You know, and they want you to shun. Basically, it's a shunning religion. The shunning business starts from the very get-go, except they're teaching you to shun everybody else that's not a witness. So a person doesn't have to be disfellowshipped. You can just not be a witness and you're shunned already.
Right. Right. It's so true, Donald. Well said. Well said. I'm so glad you didn't waste your life in that horrible cult.
No, I basically studied with them out of curiosity, not so much because I wasn't a Christian. I was then, but I was just curious because I didn't know what the witnesses were like. I mean, I had heard of them, but I never really experienced them. So I thought, well, let me try and see what it's like, you know. And I will admit, I met some nice Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm not saying they were all bad. The people themselves weren't bad, but it was just that the people that were in the religion, the people that studied with me, you know, they were trying to tell me to get rid of my friends and stuff. And I don't really blame them for it. It's because they were brainwashed themselves. They were taught by that religion to tell people when they're studying with them that they need to get rid of their family and their friends because they're not JWs, you know, and they call that bad association. Yeah, now if I had stuck with it, oh yeah, it would have been major trauma, I think.
Well, yeah, it goes against normal. It goes against, because you know when somebody really, truly cares about you, and now you're supposed to not only cut yourself off from them because they don't want to be part of this cult, but you're cutting off somebody who really loves you, who you love,
Yeah.
who you care about.
I'll never forget. Now, I am a visually impaired person, and this is now back when I was studying with the witnesses. I was living in Houston, and I was, you know, I stayed with him for a very, very brief period of time. But as a visually impaired person, you know, sometimes we need help. And I was walking with a neighbor of mine down the street. We were going to the grocery store, and it was a lady. Her name was Anna Marie, and Anna Maria was a very nice lady. She was from Mexico. She spoke English, but she hadn't been living there at that apartment complex that I was living at for very long. So her and I were walking to the store because I told her I wanted to go to the store and I need some help getting stuff. Well, lo and behold, even though I didn't notice it, and of course she didn't know it either, but one of the sisters happened to drive by and see me walking with her. Well, the sister didn't stop. Now, the sister picked me up to go to the meeting the following weekend. And that's when she brought it to my attention that she saw me walking with one of my neighbors that wasn't a JW. And you know, she was reminded that was bad association and all that stuff. Now, after she told me that, I thought to myself, I think I'm in the wrong group. But I didn't say that to her out loud. I went ahead and went to the meeting and stuff and everything. But shortly after all that, it just got to where I didn't want to be a part of it. So, you know, basically I got out. I didn't stay in long enough to get baptized. I didn't even stay in long enough to do my first talk. So I really got out quick. I mean, it was a fast exit.
Well, my hat is off to you, my brother Donald, because you listened to your gut.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Donald, thank you so very much for coming on. Yes, brother, what's your name?
This is Stephen. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Oh, hi.
I thought you were done. I'm sorry. This is a great topic, and unfortunately, I'm going to miss it because I have to have dinner with some people. But I did want to touch on something that you said in your opening comments that I just finished sharing with somebody just last week. And I was telling you that I don't consider Jehovah's Witnesses. I call them Watchtower Witnesses. And they said, well, what do you mean? And I told them, I said, you could go and talk to an elder. You could tell that elder, let's say you stopped attending meetings, And they, you know how they corral you down. They want to find out what's going on. How can they help? And if you were to tell them, I no longer believe in a Jehovah God, they'll say, well, okay, we can kind of understand that, blah, blah, blah. You know, we can work with you on that. Or if you said, I don't believe in a Jesus, well, okay, you know, we can work with you on that. But let you say that you don't believe in this governing body, or you don't believe that the governing body is, you know, God's instrument, or however you want to word it. The conversation's over with. They are completely and entirely done with you. Now, if you're intelligent and you look at that, then you have to say you're worshiping this organization. If they don't care whether you believe in God or Jesus anymore, but the conversation ends when you say you don't believe in this organization, that'll tell you right there. I said, and that's why I call them Watchtower witnesses, not Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't give a crap about Jehovah, and we all know that. We can see by their actions. So it's so very true what you said earlier. And of course, being a part of a cult and any cult is very traumatic. I don't even know if we really can see all the trauma, you know, that we've been through. We can probably see it in other people, because as we know, there's been people that have even committed suicide because of all the trauma that they've had to endure. So yeah, it's a very traumatic experience being in this organization, especially in my opinion, if you are a female, and especially if you're born in. Thanks, Anne-Marie. That's all I wanted to say, and I'll listen in as much as I can.
Oh, Stephen, and I hope you call back in. I love your comments. I love it when everybody comments, because everybody, it's like facets of a diamond. All of us, we all have a way of expressing something that is unique to us. And I think in hearing everyone speak, we all learn from each other. I learn from you. I learn from Donald. I learn from everyone. And I really appreciate your comments so much, Stephen, and I hope you come back on later.
I will definitely try.
Well, thank you.
Hi. Thank you.
Hi, who's this?
I think you might have two of us on. I'm not sure. This is Chris.
Okay, go ahead. I'll talk after you.
Okay, but somebody give me a name, because you guys are making me crazy.
Okay, I'm Joe from Colorado, but let's let the other.
I know who you are. I know who you are, Joe. With your great spit. Talk to me.
Go ahead and start first.
Yes, why not?
You know, it's really a good subject, and I would like to share something that happened to me, and I think a lot of it was not just the religious trauma from the Watchtower, you know, the heavy hold they had on me.
Yeah.
Well, but along with that, I grew up in a very, very dysfunctional, highly dysfunctional family. My mom's husband was a severe alcoholic, and he heavily abused me. And so throughout the years, I always attributed the God of the Watchtower. I won't ever use that name. I don't care for it, but I always confused him with Simon. This is the guy that was married to the woman that brought me in the world. But he was so brutal with me. And then you get the other side where the Watchtower is so controlling, and then they preach Armageddon, and they're the only organization that has God's blessing. When you form that belief, my wires got crossed, and I always viewed the God of the Watchtower as a very evil and mean God, and yet I couldn't break from it. And the reason I always thought the God of the Watchtower was not a loving God was, one, I always pictured Simon, the guy that would beat me up every time I did something after the meetings. He'd beat me up or he'd choke me out. But that's why I got my wires crossed, and there's where a lot of my trauma comes from. And I'll just give you an example. About a week ago, and I know Connie and Rich, they've been very supportive of me. I had a severe Armageddon nightmare, and you know who I pictured was killing me was Simon. And Simon, here's one last interesting tidbit before I let somebody else talk. Simon was baptized pretty much in good standing because they allowed him to do the sound, they allowed him to read for the Watchtower, but they didn't know the real Simon. They didn't know that he was a pedophile. They didn't know that he was physically and mentally abusive. They never even knew when we would go home from the meeting that he would drink a 6-pack of beer and have several drinks of hard liquor. They didn't know that Simon. And what really bothers me, when we'd go to the hall, because he wore a suit and he would speak a good game, they didn't know that he was a serial abuser, a pedophile, and all this other stuff. So what I would like to just tell you, and I find this very encouraging that people are listening, you could actually associate the God of the Watchtower with something different. And then lastly, this is one more thing I want to say. I never remember, when I was growing up, I never remember a drama. Remember they used to have the dramas that were not on video. I never remember a drama where they portrayed God as a loving God. All the dramas were, it was death. Everybody died in the dramas. And so I never, even though I got baptized, even though I ended up being in the Watchtower for 49 years, I don't even know how I could say I loved the God of the Watchtower. I just went with the flow because I never viewed the God of the Watchtower as a loving God. And I'll share one last point with you, and then I promise I'll get off. Before I got baptized, Anne-Marie, I tested out the person that was studying with me. We were walking, and I was a publisher, and we were walking, and there was this kid, and he had like Down syndrome, and he was in the front yard. And I'll never forget, he had this big plastic bat, and I thought he might have had some sight problems. But anyway, I asked the man that was with me, his name was Lee. I said, Lee, I want to ask you a question. If Armageddon came tomorrow, would that little boy, that precious boy, and this was a little kid that, he had Down syndrome,
Yeah.
and on top of that, he was just playing in the front yard. His mom and dad were on the porch, and I said, would that boy make it? And I'll never forget, this should have been, after he said this, I said, you know what, Lee, I don't want anything to do with this organization. I'm going to head home. I said, will he be saved? And Lee said, no, not unless his mom and dad both make it into the new world. But I was so afraid of the God of the Watchtower, I just went with that. What I should have said, you know what? That's not a God. That's not a God that would kill a little boy that has Down syndrome, doesn't even, have the kind of life a normal person would have. But so there's a lot of guilt that I have for not seeing through the Watchtower. And your subject tonight is an outstanding subject. I'm going to let somebody else talk now.
But you know what, Anne-Marie, and all that, that sounds terrible, because how does Watchtower, where do they get the idea that if a child's parents aren't saved or whatever, that the child won't be saved? Where does the child is an individual person. And not only that, if God kills that child at Armageddon, that means that God, according to the Watchtower, is an unmerciful God. He is,
Right.
according to God, is mean and evil.
What's your name, dear?
This is Donald from Texas again.
Oh, Donald, I knew you sounded familiar. That's such a good point. And doesn't John, 1 John 4:8, say that if you don't have love, you can't know God because God is love? And doesn't John 3:16 say, for God loved the world, not just Jehovah's Witnesses, for God loved the world so much that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever should believe in him should not perish, but have, not the hope of, have everlasting life.
You know what else? And you know what else too? Think about the Armageddon. Think about the Armageddon teaching. They teach that if you die in Armageddon, that you will not be resurrected. Where does that say? Where does it say that in the Bible? It doesn't. It doesn't say anything of the sort. That whole thing, that whole Armageddon teaching is, there again, a trauma-inducing teaching, because you're taught to be scared that, oh, if I die at Armageddon, I will never be resurrected. That's their made-up, false, evil, satanic doctrine, because there's nothing of the such in the Bible. I mean, the Bible does not say that if you die at Armageddon, God's not going to resurrect you. God says that when everybody dies, everybody will be resurrected, whether at the first resurrection or at the second resurrection. But the point is, everybody will be resurrected. It doesn't say that only those that die at Armageddon will not be resurrected. That's a Watchtower invention. That's what that is.
Hey, Marie, I just said, this is Rick at the Six Screens Control Panel. What I want to say, we had a fellow that was going to come on around the same time that Joe was going to come on. So we have to invite him back in. I think he was the first time caller. So caller, if you'd like to come in, you and Joe, is that you, sir? You're on with us? Go ahead. All right. So what we
floor is yours.
Yeah, what we do here, I just want to make an announcement too. We have a lot of people that call into the Six Screens, and I want you to listen closely, folks. If you come on, that's good. We'd love to have you talk, but give other people a chance to talk. Give other people, because what happens is if people jump right in right away, and there's people who want to talk for the first time, they muster up the courage, and then they lose that courage. So please respect those new ones coming in. If you spoke up for a while, give time for other people to come in. And then what you do is, if no one does speak up, then come in. But at least allow for that time. But we did have this man that was trying to come in right around the time Joe was coming in. If you're still there with us and you want to speak up, go ahead, hit *6, and you're on with us.
And it's okay to just, excuse me, I'm a first-time caller. I just wonder when I can talk. And definitely, we don't want anyone to feel that they're ignored or whatever, but we also don't want to cut people off. So it's kind of a fine line we walk. But please know this is your show, whether you have never talked before or whether you've talked every show. We are all here to listen to you. And at any time, especially if you are a new time caller, please allow yourself to say, excuse me, I'm a new time caller, can I talk soon or whatever. And that way, whoever's talking can just finish up and we go right to you, and we are all going to be listening. Please know that. Just want to let you know that. Okay. Is there anybody would like to just chime in by hitting *6 and say, my name is, and go for it?
Hello, Anne Marie, and my name is Dick. Listen, I wanted to say a little something on what Joe was about a few minutes ago.
Hi, Dick.
Hi, how are you?
Well, now I'm happy that you acknowledge me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay.
What's on your mind, my brother?
Hey, it's just that when I was in, I believed that if I didn't make it through Armageddon, and my former wife did, the children didn't have a chance because we both had to make it through Armageddon. That's one. And on what Joe was saying, I never saw Jehovah as a love God. He was always depicted to me as Jehovah of armies, and that's constant combat. I saw him as a loving. Thank you, Marie.
Well, you know what, Dick? Thank you so much. I wanted to bring out, Joe was talking about, or somebody was talking about making it through Armageddon, and it made me think of how many Jehovah's Witnesses that we have heard of through the years who have either committed suicide or killed their entire family and then committed suicide. It was because Watchtower so many times repeated their belief that if you don't make it through Armageddon, you're dead forever. So a lot of witnesses already feeling that they could never be good enough, that all they ever could hope for was the hope of surviving Armageddon, which is not what the Bible teaches at all. So they would look at, according to Romans chapter 6, verse 23 in the New World Translation, for the wages sin pays is death. So what they would reason, all these witnesses who would kill themselves or kill their whole families, is because they felt that they had a better chance to make it into the new order or the paradise earth or whatever they're calling it today if they died now before Armageddon. That way they could just skip through the trauma, skip through the worry of hoping they'd survive, and then they'd get resurrected in the paradise earth. And this has happened so many times. Just want to bring that out. Did you have further thoughts, my brother Dick?
Yeah, just one. It's a little off topic, but when I was in the Watchtower, there was a song that they used to sing, and the last verse was, Jehovah hears the prayers of the righteous ones. So I always got the belief that if I wasn't righteous, my prayers would not be heard by Jehovah. So towards the end of my career at the Watchtower, I never prayed at all because I was saying Jehovah doesn't hear me. If the congregation asked me to open up with prayer, I just memorized some words and spewed them out. But there was no, I had no belief that those prayers were being heard. Thank you.
You know what, Dick, what you just said makes so much sense to me. I am curious, that scripture that you referred to about Jehovah hears the prayer of the righteous one, was that out of the New World Translation?
Yeah, I think it was. It's also in the songbook too. The last verse was prayers that are heard, implying that some prayers that our Heavenly Father doesn't listen to because you're a sinner. Well, we're sinners. Of course, the Watchtower takes a step more. If you've committed a serious sin, and they're the ones that define serious sin, and probably the most serious sin you can commit in the Watchtower is to challenge adultery of the Watchtower.
Right. Well, here's what I'm thinking. I've heard that scripture that I think that's taken from, and we all know how the Watchtower can take scriptures and manipulate them to make it mean what it really doesn't mean in order to further your submission and obedience and loyalty to the Watchtower leadership. I believe the scripture where all this came from says that Jehovah hears the prayers of the brokenhearted.
True, but they don't really teach that too much.
No, not at all. And my brother Dick, thank you so much for coming on. And I can always count on you to comment, give great comments. Would anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry, Dick. Did you have anything to add, dear?
No, that'll be it.
Okay. Would anybody else like to share a thought, comment on what others have said, or just share your own opinion on subject again today is Watchtower induced trauma. Anybody have any comments or anything they'd like to share? this is your show. If you're a new caller, you are very welcome. I'm easy to get along with. Just try me.
Hello,
Okay.
Anne Marie.
Yes, my dear, dear sister. What's up?
This is Susan, and Rick and I have talked about this quite a bit. When you have that induced trauma from the Watchtower, certain things are easy to get over, but certain things aren't. And we need to really, as soon as we know that things aren't going well with the Watchtower, we need to leave. We should leave, because the longer you stick around, you're going to have these thoughts and these. Sometimes there's things that just don't go away for years, and sometimes not ever. So just the sooner you can get out, the better. But just like Daniel was saying, he got out. He didn't even get baptized. He quit studying. Good, just get out. As soon as you have those feelings, listen to them. There's a reason you're having them. Your mind is trying to tell you something. Things aren't quite right. You're not sure what, but it's not quite right. It's time to examine what's going on in your life and leave.
Yeah, I kind of said the same thing in my testimony, that I had felt something was very wrong at the idea of going back to that organization, because I left when I was 15. I knew something was wrong when I was 12, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But when I went to Woodland Hills, which is a very affluent area of Los Angeles County, and I went to the meetings there and the book studies there, I could not believe the cliques and everything was about money and standing and who's better than who. And this was not Jehovah's people that I could see. It just didn't sit right. And then when I got to another congregation, from the beautiful one that I went to when I was in the project, so we went to a very poor organization full of love. And then I went to a more affluent congregation, and they were just snobs. The best way I can describe it: judgmental, gossiping, looking down their nose at everybody, snobs. And I decided, you know what? God's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. I'm not taking any more of this. And I left, and I got talked into going back. You all know the story. It was January 1975, and those sisters were sent to my house by my mother to talk me into my senses. And you know what? I kept feeling in my gut, don't do it. I didn't listen. They convinced me that reticence of going back, not wanting to go back, was Satan. Satan doesn't want you to go. That's how cults work, and I fell for it. Yeah, that's a good one, Susan.
Hello, Anne Marie.
Yes, what's your name? Y'all better
Hey,
get on the program. Give me your name first. What's your name?
This is Kurt. How are you?
Kurt. Miss you.
Hey. How are you doing? How is things around you? Everything good, I guess.
Yes, my dear brother, and thank you for asking, because no matter what, I am so happy in the Lord. Freedom in Christ.
I believe you are, and I believe it's genuine. Induced trauma from the Watchtower. What comes to my mind is the change of doctrine. I haven't been there in a while, but I've got two sisters in the Watchtower, and I'm just figuring this out because I'm not there. But I'm thinking that if I was there, that the change in doctrine, I would go back to the change of the generation teaching. That was pretty shocking. I would think to most anybody, but of course, I don't have to tell you, a lot of people in the Watchtower just kind of roll with the punches. For people, the other type of person that's more technical on technical issues
we could go back to generational teaching, and that would be induced trauma. I think to some people that change in doctrine, and then the long list of the changes where New Light sometimes changes the foundational teaching of a doctrine. And so I would call that trauma. So that's my comment. You've got a good show going, and I'll go back to YouTube, and I thank you, Anne-Marie and Rick, for taking my call, and I'll go back because you got always got a lot of people wanting to talk. Thanks, Anne-Marie, and good night. I'm going to go back to YouTube. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I have missed you very much, and I thank you for coming on. Anyone else like to come on and share a thought, comment, experience regarding trauma-induced, I'm dyslexic, regarding the subject Watchtower-induced trauma, star 6, this show is for you. Okay, I'm going to start with my notes, people. Anyone want to break in and comment, please feel free. Watchtower caused us emotional trauma, though it is likely that as PIMI Jehovah's Witnesses, physically in, mentally in, we didn't recognize that we were suffering from religious trauma, such as anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, not ever feeling good enough, needing others to tell us that we had worth. In essence, we needed validation from others, which we rarely, if ever, receive. How many times are we doing our best, going when we were sick, pushing ourselves till we felt like we were going to die, and getting criticism and pulled into the back room instead? Never a slap on the back and, hey, brother, you know, take some time off to relax, or you're doing a good job. How many of us never got that? And part of the trauma is a lot of JWs became addicts, where it was being a workaholic or becoming hoarders, or couldn't stop drinking, or couldn't get away from pornography or certain things on TV. You could get addicted to approval. You can get addicted to religion, and addicted to food, and addicted to gossip. Who knows? Anyone have any ideas of things that you could get addicted to? Because that is a symptom of trauma. That is basically a coping mechanism. Anyone have a comment, or I'm going to keep going? Okay, I'm going. Go ahead. Yeah. Hi. Who's it? Honey, how you doing? Well, I'm happy to hear my sister Constance. Talk to me, girl.
Well, you know, honey, when you start talking about the topic you know, one thing I'd really like to say is, you know, how many, I hope I'm not up here, I've got the volume maybe a little too loud. How many of the, and you know, there's men as well, but primarily eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, or a combination of the two, or overeaters. That is something that is directly related to a lot of anxiety and depression that people encounter. And also, by the way, especially anorexia and and bulimia to sexual abuse. Well, not, but it can. So, you know, most women, Anne-Marie, I mean, we're the same generation, you know, we 1965 and that whole thing, but most of the sisters, you didn't see them becoming alcoholics. You didn't see them, because, you know, we were, right? You didn't see them become alcoholics. You didn't see them, you know, doing drugs. You didn't see that. There was no immorality. I mean, they were great sisters, but you see sisters that would have eating disorders. And not only that, but one other thought, Anne-Marie, another thing that goes along with it is cutting, where there's so much trauma or will inflict on people. Anxiety, you're not good enough, you got to do more, all of that. That pressure, like a pressure cooker, just never stops. That you will see, well, and boys too, they will cut themselves. What am I talking about? They'll literally take a razor blade and they'll cut their arms, places where, you know, they try to with their shirts. But that release of the blood is, for them, it's a release of all the tension that they're feeling from being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I'm right now, look, honey, it ties all in. John Ledger's wife, her name is Honey Ledger, XJW analyzer. I mean, lots of people know him. He has a great YouTube. She does too. And her talking about stop the shunning. Well, you know, Anne-Marie, I'm burning down the house, coping with toxic family dynamics, estrangement, and building your. She was born in, and she was in for 30 years, and was very transparent. And she to cutting as well. Her release. So definitely is an induced trauma that Watchtower has on a lot of people. And you can only hide these, like eating disorders. You can only hide it for so long. You know, I love Karen Carpenter. You know who Karen Carpenter was, Anne-Marie. Oh my God, of the Carpenters. I watched a bio on her, and she started the eating disorders of both anorexia and the other one. I'm drawing a blank tonight. Anorexia and also bulimia. And in 7 years, she her life, died. It was the laxatives, medication to cause her to throw up, and she got down to 79 pounds, and she literally died, you know, a heart attack. It was just horrible. So these are very, very serious issues, and Watchtower is the culprit behind it, and they don't offer any kind of relief or any kind of hope to help people because they don't believe in therapy, and they're never going to stop their ways. So I just want to hear that tonight, Anne-Marie. Thank you, dear.
Oh, honey, thank you so much for bringing that up. It really, really is a very, very serious subject because it was so blatant. Some people had obvious, some people had subtle, but it was almost like a parasite or a leech. It just ate at you and sucked the life out of you.
Right.
Was somebody trying to speak?
Anne-Marie?
Yes,
Hi.
what's your name? What's your name?
My name is Chris.
Hi, Chris.
I'm in Arizona, and I've called it a few times before. But one of the trauma, born in, I was in for a lot of years, was an elder towards the tail end for almost 10 years. So it was the eldership that really opened my eyes to the oh boy, you get behind the scenes and it's a mess. You've had experiences, I'm sure, but the trauma for me personally, one of them, and I was able to overcome it is, you know, the Watchtower plants a poison pill. And for me, that poison pill was, you know what? Go ahead and quit, because if you leave the organization, you're doomed. There is no other religion. They're all satanic.
Oh my God,
and,
it's true.
you know, and so my wife and I both left around the same time, the early 2000s. And for about 10 years, we were without a God that we could relate to. In any event, we just did a lot of research, read some books. I finally discovered Jesus Christ. And I want to thank you also for sharing those scriptures at the outset, because it's so true. The Watchtower God, it's partially correct. You know, I mean, they're the Yahweh, Jehovah, and Yeshua, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. But when you find out who Jesus Christ really and truly is, and I did, and so did my wife, in other words, at that point, I took off. I mean, I still have residual, trauma and so forth, but finding God for real and going to a church now and worshiping God and Jesus the way he should be. The poison pill lasted for 10 years. I thought I was doomed. I started, engaging in a lot of self-destructive behavior for that period of time. But in the end, the whole thing, it worked out great. And what's kind of humorous in a way is when I was an elder, well, even before I was an elder, I used to hate field service. I loathed it. It was just, and I felt like such a hypocrite. And anyway, oddly enough, this little church that I go to now, one of the things that the pastor has asked us to do, and it's kind of hilarious, is he wanted us to start going out and telling people about Jesus, about our church, and just, asking people if they needed prayer and this and that, just cold calling, going door to door with our, and you know what? There's only a few of us in the church that have responded to the call. I've been doing that for several years. It's an absolute joy to go to people's door and just, the reception, oddly enough, when we were, hanging out Watchtowers, I don't want to see, get off my property, this, that. It's remarkable of the people that come to the door and just, and see what we're all about. We just wear, like, I'll say regular clothes, okay? We're not sloppy or anything like that, but the whole suit and tie, all that stuff. And I know they've gotten rid of that at Watchtowers to some degree, but we pray of the people that come to the door, and we ask them, is there anything that we could pray with you about? We're just, sharing Jesus with people today. And, it catches people kind of cold, but over 50% of the people that we talk to ask us to say a brief prayer with them. We lift them up, to God. They have like a sick relative, maybe financial problems, or if everything's going great, but God's been. We say a praise. And like yesterday, we go out on Friday. Yesterday we were out. It's just me and three other older guys. We have such a great time, and it's just a joy. It's a joy to know God as He really is. But still, God, boy, the stories, the older stories. Oh boy, maybe one of these days I'll share those with you. But that's not the topic today. But don't let them plant that poison pill, and don't let it stick with you. When you get out of there, you go looking for God. You will find Him. I promise you.
Well, I love what you said when you said it is a joy to know what God really is, because they taught us of a terrible, mean God who said, I love you, but if you don't obey everything the governing body says, and if you don't stick with my organization and stay loyal, you will be destroyed. How in the world would anybody want to be part of that? And to know God as He truly is, read it in their own New World Translation. It's all there. And it's like you said, it is a joy and such peace. And I'm so happy that you have found joy in what you're doing, my brother.
Thank you. And I love you, and I love Rick and Constance and Dick and all the callers. Rick is, boy, I can't even express that impact on a lot of us, but he's such a good, decent man. I'll say this about him. He took one of the worst possible scenarios that you get Jehovah's Witness, which, as we found out, is bad, and then turning it into something so good, 6 Breeds, and you helped him out and everyone else. He just loves what he does. He's selfless, absolutely selfless. So
he is.
And, So,
well, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for all your hard work, okay? Bye-bye.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, Chris, so much. Would anyone else like to comment? *6, this show is for you.
Hi, Anne-Marie.
Hi, who's this?
This is Dean.
Dean.
Yes.
Hello, my Dean. What's on your mind?
How are you, my dear? I just want to say it was such an honor meeting you at the convention, Anne-Marie. And you still made it there after all your delays and troubles flying during that time. But we made it there, and it was a great thing.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, I just want to say it was an honor meeting you. And I also want to mention, kind of related to what you folks were just talking about, I'm really thankful for us that really found the truth after the truth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful to just be alive in Christ, the true Christ, and to know Him. But, I feel really, really sad for the folks that left that cult. And they were so disenfranchised, and probably for good reason, They were abused. They were, just totally picked on at times, and we can't even talk about the abuses, and a lot of it I went through myself, but I feel really sorry for the folks that left, and they want nothing to do with religion or God. I mean, we shouldn't want anything to do with religion, because true religion is worshiping Christ alone. But I feel sorry for the folks that they're just so turned against God or thinking along that route. I just feel very sorry for them.
Yeah, I believe that there will come a time. You know, a lot of people carry the indoctrination and the anger, you know,
Yeah.
because we know when we realized that everything we did and tried so hard to do to be a good witness was all for nothing, that makes us feel bad enough, and to think, well, I'll never be good enough anyway. I might as well enjoy every day I have until God destroys me. That's a sad way to be, but it's
Sure
better
is.
than being in that horrible cult. But
Yeah.
I do believe, like Randy Waters brought out years ago, everybody has their time, and only God and Holy Spirit and the angels know when their time is, and whatever it takes, whatever they need to hear or see or experience or read that will help them to wake up or start the waking up process. You know, God
Yeah, well,
knows their time. And
yeah, well,
it's amazing.
Sure. Yeah, I've come across ex-witnesses that are totally turned off against, and my brother's one of them as well. He's just, now he says, I'm agnostic. But I still try to plant a seed and just pray for them, because, yeah, ultimately, like you said, it's up to God, and it's up to their heart being softened eventually.
Yeah, it's all about their personal space of when they're ready. We're ready. You know, I don't think anybody can say somebody got me to wake up. You know, nobody got me to wake up. I don't know anybody that was made awake by somebody else. It's our journey is our personal journey, and when we come out, it's like I love the word free. It's my favorite word in the world, because when we are awake and able to see, and we cannot ever unknow what we know. When we see, we know what we see. And it's so nice to have the clarity of mind. You know, we took off those Watchtower glasses and stopped just blindly believing what incorruptible, uninspired, making mistakes and never apologizing men would tell us. We were betrayed. Our desire to serve God was betrayed and abused and manipulated and misused, and we were always being put down, never being good enough. You know, brother, you really need to work on this, or, you know, brother, we heard this and that. You know, nothing but discouragement. I think that was the worst, and we didn't even realize it, with constant discouragement. And at the same time, we were pressured to always be seen as uplifting and spiritually strong and encouraging, or you would be seen as bad association, because nobody wants to be around somebody who's quote unquote negative or always depressed. So we had to not only deal with, you know, being depressed and feeling like we were just not good enough, but we had to put on a show of always being happy. Like Brother Rick brought out one time, no matter how I was feeling, how tired I was, how frustrated I was, how dejected I felt, if anybody says, how are you, Rick? Oh, I'm doing great, you know, blah, blah, blah. Because that's how we were supposed to be. So on top of everything else, to be a good Jehovah's Witness, you had to be a damn fully fledged hypocrite. We didn't mean to be hypocrites, but it's just that we were trying so hard to be.
They taught us how to be phony and fake. And
funny,
you know what?
Fake.
Yeah, I'm going to be my authentic self no matter what. You know, if Christ has me, who am I to be afraid of? So, hey, it is what it is. But thank you, Anne-Marie.
Well, thank you, my brother Dean. Who's wanting to talk? What's your name?
Hi, Anne-Marie.
Hi, what's your name?
This is RJ.
RJ. I forgot where you're from.
I am from the Midwest.
Okay, Midwest is okay. Midwest. How are
Now-
you, RJ?
As usual, I love the topic. You always pick pretty good topics. Spiritual abuse. What I think is everybody has their breaking point. I think you've told the story about that brother. He sat in the back room for 12 years, and they weren't going to reinstate him no matter what he did. And even a circuit overseer was like, man, you just need to leave this behind you. Be a Mormon, be a Methodist, anything. Just, how can you do this, you know? Not worth it. You know?
It's amazing. Yeah, they put you through it. It is so cruel. So cruel.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, people like myself and others, we have a little bit less of a pain tolerance or a BS tolerance, whatever you want to call it. Whereas a little bit of resistance and we're out of there, you know? Now, I think I've told the story before, but my grandpa, he was short when he had like growth spurt late in life, and he grew up in like the 40s and that, where you had to be tough, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's his personality. But he got his privileges as an elder stripped because he had too many other interests and they weren't happy with his meeting attendance.
Oh,
And then when they gave him the, you know, backroom meeting, they cited times when he was giving a talk other places as times he was missing meetings, and he said that's enough, you know. And he paid lip service, but he was never a real witness after that.
that is so disgusting. That is too much. That's almost as bad as this one dedicated brother who his business was in construction, and he, you know, answered the call to go over to where there were disaster situations where brothers and sisters had damage to their home. And so he took off with his own equipment, his own skills, on his own dime, with his own paying for everything himself to go over there and work and work and work. And actually he got chastised for not turning in enough time. Got in trouble for that. And I believe he lost his privileges, even though he was over there working, you know, 10, 12-hour days, fixing people's roofs and house and flood problems and plumbing and wiring. He was killing himself working and sleeping in his car and eating garbage because he didn't have money for decent food or a hotel. And yet he got in trouble for, well, you aren't turning in your time. No matter what you do, they want to turn something into it as you're in the wrong, you're bad, you're not living up to your requirements. Ridiculous. Wow, I'm so sorry you went through that.
Well, yeah, it's very sad. I kind of didn't have much left when I left, so it wasn't really hard to, well, I was pretty devout, so it had to be bad for me to leave, but I didn't really have too much left to give up when I left too, though, you know, so.
Well, it sounded like, you know what, it's time for me to go. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's the tough part, is when you devote time, energy, effort, and you feel it's your identity to a certain point. And then towards the end, it seems like, well, we can go on without you. We don't need you. This isn't meant for you, you know, like that type of stuff.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I really appreciate your sharing. Is there anything you would like to add to that, RJ?
Absolutely. And I thought about what Rick said earlier when he did his intro for your program. He talked about how many viewers there are now. And when I first started calling, you know, 9 months ago or whenever it was easy to get on the line. I remember one show you did where you couldn't buy a caller to come in. Like you were stalling for time for somebody to call in. And now there's a backlog of 5 people that want to get on and many more listeners. And I love it.
Oh, well, I just like to be able to listen. I care about what everybody is going through, what they feel, what their opinion is. And I cherish every one of my Six Screens family, and I'm always grateful for someone to take the time to want to share and to add to the program, because ultimately I believe everything is shared and it's going to help someone. What were you saying?
Absolutely. And if you think about the difference between like programs on the Six Screens and like how Watchtower conducted their business, was they didn't value people individually, and the Six Screens does.
Yeah.
I want to hear where people are coming from. I want to hear the story. I want to hear the dirt, because that's somebody's life experience, and that's something that they need to get off their chest. And that's something that, even though when I was a teenager, you tend to think that you're special and you're unique and that you're one of a kind, but there's a lot of people who have a very similar story to mine. And I can name a couple off the top of my head that it was the same deal. Like, they went through the whole same process that I did. And it's not that unique of a story.
Well, whether it's unique or not, my mother said something to me once that stuck with me, and whether it's literal or metaphorical, the point is well made. She said, if you have a broken leg and you're in so much pain, does it make your pain feel any better to know that somebody else has two broken legs? No, your pain is your pain.
And I remember, it's kind of funny. Like, I remember like a couple years after I was out, and I was visiting family that are still in, and they had somebody else that was a witness friend of theirs over, and he's talking about how he's going to homeschool, do independent study, and be like all in on being a witness. And he's going to do his thing like that. And I'm thinking like, oh, that's a really bad idea. and then I'm like thinking like, I can't really tell him because he won't get it because he didn't, he doesn't know yet, I felt like the Twilight Zone episode, I think it was called Being There, where the guy, he tries to go back in time to stop Lincoln from being assassinated. And there's, everything that is working against him, where he kind of has to watch history like everybody else. So that's what I felt like doing that. Like there's no stopping what's meant to be sometimes.
That is true. But I do believe everything is going to work out. I don't worry anymore, because I know one way or another, sooner or later, everyone is going to have to face the truth. Everyone. So if we got out and we know what's going on, well, thank God we made it, and thank the Lord, and we talk to each other and encourage each other. And we're fortunate to have the Six Screens family, because nobody really wants to be alone in this. And again, I'm always so grateful for the platform that Rick and Susan provide so faithfully. So faithfully. Okay, is that all you wanted to say for now, my dear? Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah. The one thing I want to add is, everybody leaves in their own time, where, like me or you, we say, well, we saw Tight Pants Tony make a fool of himself for years. We saw, Stephen Lett with his Heaven's Gate eyeballs, like he just is a Looney Tune, like you've seen all these changes, and you're like, why are people still wasting time doing this? But you got to remember, when I left or when I was getting in, there's people from the 80s and 90s. They would tell you, well, it's a cult religion. Well, it's weird, like, well, like, think about it, like they were saying we were crazy too for being in. And It's just a matter of perspective. You know, everybody's going to come out in their own time.
I believe that, RJ. I really, truly do. And that's a comfort, you know. It's like if you, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, you know, we don't want to trust in anybody else to guide our life. We're not even supposed to trust ourselves. We're supposed to trust in God, in the Lord, in Holy Spirit to guide us on the right path. We have many paths in our life. And, you know, it might be a feeling in our gut to all of a sudden call somebody or, you know, go down this road or turn left when you usually turn right. We never know. But if we allow God to guide us, the scripture says not to rely on your own understanding, but to rely on God. And I used to think, well, if I can't rely on my own understanding, why am I supposed to rely on somebody else's understanding when they admit they are fallible? They don't have God's spirit. They make mistakes. And plus they keep screwing everything up. That's just a straight up of it. They keep screwing everything up while they're taking your money, making you feel like garbage, never doing enough. And then, you know, they tell you this is the truth, but now 2 weeks later, it's not the truth. Or now it's recycled truth. Or now it's been turned around truth. And no matter what is going on, you just have to believe it or else you're an apostate. I mean, nothing makes sense when you really think about it.
Hi, Anna Marie.
Yes, what's your name, dear?
It's Maverick here from London.
Maverick.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Hi. Great show. I just wanted to add to all of the great insights you've just mentioned, because as I'm hearing everybody's experiences and their own, the common trauma that we all felt being attached to a toxic relationship. If we try to I personally ask myself questions like this, is like I said to myself, okay, how when we read the words, or when anyone listening here who's still like a PIMQ or is trying to anchor themselves, what am I feeling here? And they're feeling trauma, but they can't identify what's going on. They can't put their finger on why they're feeling bad all the time.
Right.
What toxic relationship does to you. It messes up your sense of reality completely. I can speak from experience or from previous experiences that I won't go into now. But trauma is, as we know, as you've mentioned, the expectation to hit a standard that was. They created the Watchtower, and it's not just the Watchtower, it's not just Jehovah's Witnesses as an organization. There can be any organization, but if we see the commonality of things that they bring to the table, then it can help us to say, okay, you know what, I'm going through this. And so, for example, you mentioned earlier, Anne-Marie, you know, Christ has his words written down, and other people are telling you, no, this is what it means, and I'm telling you, and then they change their mind and so on, which is a really good point you made. But when I just read the simple verses, like when Jesus said, come to me, I know a lot of people are not Christians who may be listening, or many may not be Christians, but their organization purports to be Christian. So let's say, for the argument's sake, we're just taking it from the fact that people who are coming out of there at one point were affiliated with the Watchtower because they felt that they were in a Christian organization. Okay, then, so if that's the standard, then what did Jesus say? He said, come to me, and I will refresh you. You will find refreshment. My load, what I expect from you, the load I'm going to put on you is light. You will find refreshment for yourself. So the question I ask anybody, the PIMQs and anybody self-reflecting, is, do I feel light in this organization? Do I feel refreshed? Do I feel enriched? Do I feel free, as you say? And I love that word, because that's my favorite word too. Freedom in Christ. If we're not feeling it, if we're not feeling free, that's the question we should need to ask ourselves. Why am I not feeling free? Because if we're in the truth, we should be feeling free, because that's the promise that Jesus said. If you go to him, you will find refreshment for your souls. If you go to a cult or an abusive person who purports to be representing him, you won't find refreshment. All you'll find is a stack load of the burden and extracurricular things that have nothing to do with our faith. Oh, if you don't do this, God's not going to be happy with you. If you don't do that, God's not going to be happy with you. Well, who told you that God's not going to be happy? Well, I said. Who are you? Well, I'm the governing body, and you've got to do as you're told. No, I don't. Because who I'm supposed to be following, if I profess to be a Christian, I don't need to follow the governing body or the Watchtower or any other leader. And that's all I wanted to say, really, Anne-Marie. But that's a really good test. It's such a simple test. How do I actually feel? If I'm feeling burdened and loaded down, you're not in the truth. And that's how I managed to start to be more sensitive to my own feelings. And it's good. And anchor myself in what the word says, and not some organization leader. It could be a pastor in another church. It could be the Pope, whoever. It doesn't really matter who the people who say they are. It doesn't matter. This is just our branch of. This is our branch. This is our fight. You know, this is our background, so we can speak specifically about the organization. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say, Anne-Marie. But a great show. Thank you for what you do, and Rick and everybody.
Well, thank you. I always love hearing from you, Maverick, and then I get to know how you're doing. And I get nervous when I don't hear from people. Oh, well, I appreciate you. Is there anything you'd like to add, Maverick, before you go?
Well, no, I'll let somebody else chime in, and basically just that point of if reflect on what Christ said, if you are going towards him or following him, you will feel light and refreshed. You won't feel burdened and guilt-ridden, because he's covered us for our sin. You know, and we can't earn salvation. You know, so it doesn't matter how many hours you go in the ministry or what you say you're doing for him. He already knows that. He knows we can't live up to it perfectly. So he's already covered that. So, and that's the freedom. Doesn't mean that you have a license to do anything now, but you know, if you have a relationship with someone, you care about that relationship. We had a toxic relationship with the Watchtower, not with Christ. That's
Preach it, Maverick.
So take care, Anne-Marie. Take care.
And you as well, my brother. And thank you so much for bringing up some good points. What you said makes a lot of sense. Would anyone else like to speak up before I continue? The show is for you. Anytime you want to chime in, believe me, you are important, and we want to hear what you have to say. Anyone want to comment? *6. The show is for you. Okay, I'm going to continue on this subject of Watchtower-induced trauma. Talk a little bit about trauma itself, because it does manifest itself in many ways. Like I said, maybe living in fear, being tense, not being able to relax, deep down feeling that you're not good enough, you're not working hard enough, that Jehovah isn't pleased with you, feeling low self-esteem, feeling a sense of needing validation, because somehow when you're not strong in yourself, and especially when your mind and your emotions and everything has been taken over by cult programming, you know, we all have a natural need to be accepted, to be validated, to be told, you know, wow, good job, brother. Oh, that's a wonderful thing you did, sister, for so-and-so who needed help. And you're always so kind. You know, we didn't get much validation, rarely, if ever. And a lot of times we'll see the evidence of the trauma because, you know, they become addicts. They might be mean. They might be gossiping. They might be cutting, as Constant brought out. You could be addicted to porn, or addicted to religion, or addicted to alcohol or food, or even hoarding. I was surprised to find out how many witnesses were secret hoarders. Ever watched the show Hoarders? It's a coping mechanism. It's a psychiatric condition, and it's a coping coping mechanism. I'll get it right. Now, I want to talk a tiny bit more about trauma. Trauma doesn't necessarily break you, but it does separate you from who you really are. I want to repeat that. Trauma does not necessarily break you, but it does separate you from who you really are. You lose your sense of your true self. Your soul and your spirit is crying out for your attention, but you're not listening. Why? Because you're always looking for outside validation and approval. Your soul, your emotional self, your spirit is crying for you to stop accepting and agreeing to the trauma that's causing all of this, I'll say, unrest. The more religious or cult abuse that we suffer and agree to suffer, because unfortunately, especially as loyal Jehovah's Witnesses, we were unconsciously agreeing to be allowed to be abused. And we were agreeing to suffer. And the more the religion or the cult convinces you that your trauma symptoms are somehow your fault, that you are the problem, indicating that you are in some way defective, the more trauma you're going to suffer, because your emotional, mental, and spiritual self has been given over. Your emotional, mental, and spiritual self, because you have agreed, unconsciously so, to being abused. And you have allowed yourself to be given over to the outside control of others, whether it's sister thinks she knows everything, or elders who are telling you what you're doing wrong or how high you should be jumping or whatever. You have allowed outside control of others over you, your life, your thoughts. And so the vicious cycle of trauma and the symptoms of the trauma continues. And as long as you choose to accept the program of outside control instead of allowing yourself to control your life, then the longer you choose to allow others outside of yourself to control you, you will continue to experience the cycle of emotional, mental, and spiritual trauma. So is it any wonder, and Dick brought this out last week, is it any wonder so many Jehovah's Witnesses or ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have been diagnosed with PTSD? Now, at this point, I want to ask if anybody would like to share any thoughts of PTSD. PTSD, remember, stands for post, that means after the fact, post-traumatic stress disorder. Would anybody like to comment on having post-traumatic stress disorder? Because different people have it, and a lot of times they don't even know they have it. Go ahead. What's your name?
Yeah.
What's your name? Don't skip that part.
Jeff.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Your name is?
Yeah, I can relate to what you're saying.
Okay.
And yeah, you know, from panic attacks to depression, extreme sadness, and extreme guilt. I can relate to all that, what you're saying. So
extreme sadness, guilt. And what was the other one? You said something else that was just important. Anxiety.
yes, anxiety attacks.
Extreme sadness, guilt, and anxiety.
Yes, where you would hyperventilate and
Yeah, terrible.
Oh, panic attacks. That's what else you brought out. And that's horrible to experience.
It
Did you
is.
go through that, Jeff?
Yes, I did, ma'am. Yes.
Oh, Connie, you want to tell me about it?
Well, it was horrible. I went through it for years, and after I left the cult, and it was emotionally horrible because there was nobody to talk to.
Yeah.
John, nobody knew what I was going through, and I went to a therapist. They go, what are you thinking? What are you thinking when you're having an anxiety attack? And I was afraid of bringing reproach on Jehovah's name.
Oh, poor Jeff.
So I wouldn't even tell them. I lie. I don't know. I don't know. You know, so that's my story. And I know a lot have gone through that, and it's horrible. Really horrible.
Yes. Oh, it's mental and emotional torture, and it's like you're caught up in it. You can't really talk to anybody about it. You don't know what to do, but you're suffering. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. They nobody knew what you were going on. Knew what was going on unless they were a Jehovah's Witness or a former Jehovah's Witness, and I was being shunned, so nobody wanted to talk to me. And I didn't know any XJWs at the time because it was 1990, and it was, you know, it was awful. You know, and you thought at that time Armageddon was going to come at any moment, and you would be dead. The rest of your family, which none of mine were witnesses, they're going to die. It was just horrible. It was a horrible, horrible deal to get through for me. Yeah.
Oh, you poor little thing. I can imagine how it was like you were caught up in your own personal invisible hell, and you couldn't fight your way out of it. It wasn't even your fault, Jeff. They did this to you.
I know. I felt like it was my fault. I felt that I was betraying Jehovah and the organization, and it was, you know, and then I felt bad about my family and that I, you know, they always told me, well, you know, they're never going to serve Jehovah if you leave, and well, I knew my family. No way would they go to an organization or you know, do that or what have you, become a Jehovah's Witness. They weren't going to do it. And it was just, oh yeah, the holidays I'd disappear because I would think I was serving Jehovah. And, but, you know, I lost a lot of time, Thanksgivings, Christmases, birthdays, with family that are currently passed on. And I can't go back and get that. You know, and some of my family think I'm no good because of that. They don't understand, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I lost a lot of time, man, with my family. I really did, you know, because of that organization. And my mental health went down, and I lost a lot of money. because I wouldn't work, or I thought everybody was worldly people and they're bad. I should stay away from them, but I couldn't go work with mobile witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't talk to me, and I could remember whining about saying, "Oh yeah, they're good people," or what have you. These people wouldn't even talk to me.
Oh, God.
They'd see me at the grocery store, nobody would talk to me. But I remember going out of the area to another grocery store miles away so I wouldn't run into anybody. It was just, they did a number on me. And for many years, till the 2019s, I didn't find out that there were hope. And then really after the Australian Royal Commission, I kind of figured out that, this is no different than any other cult or religion. And then I started doing my research, and I wish I would have met Rick back in the 2000s. He could have really helped me out a lot. I didn't even know he existed. I didn't know Rick existed. He could have really helped me.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it goes. It's just, I don't know. Just very.
It does knock you for a loop. It's quite a shock first when you realize that the organization is not what you were taught that it was. It's quite a shock when you realize that every faithfulness, everything you did for the organization, aka Jehovah, was all for nothing. It's kind of a shock to find out that you basically don't mean anything to any of them, and that you're probably going to die anyway with Armageddon, at Armageddon, according to Watchtower philosophy, because you're only as good as your last good enough. And if your last good enough doesn't keep up, or you don't get better, you're a failure, you're falling short, you're going to die at Armageddon. No matter what you do, you blink the wrong way, you're going to die at Armageddon. It's nothing but threat and fear and not good enough. And you're trying to deal with all this by yourself. And oh my good gracious. That's why I like to break away from all of it.
So, yeah. It did a number on me, and those elders just, they threatened me. They basically threatened me. It was, geez.
I'm so sorry, Jeff.
If I'd only met Rick in the 2000s, he could have really helped me. But I didn't know he existed. And I remember there was a local paper in my area, and this guy was complaining about the witnesses and how they treated him, and he left and what have you. Oh my gosh, there's another guy at work was telling me about it, and he goes, "You got that paper?" I go, "When did you see it?" And well, he couldn't remember. I was going back to look for this guy because he had his phone number in there, and I wanted to talk to him so bad. There's nobody to talk to. There was nobody to talk to.
And that's the worst, isn't it?
Yes, I couldn't tell a counselor. I couldn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Because with the counselor, I thought I was bringing a reproach on Jehovah's name, like I told you that before. So I felt guilt, and I go, that counselor, she'd say, "Well, what are you thinking?
what are you thinking when you're having these anxiety attacks? And she would tell me, well, yeah, she told me, what are you thinking? And I'd tell her, I don't know. Because I thought I was bringing reproach on Jehovah's name. It was unreal. I lost a lot of money with my work.
Aww.
I refused to put in my 401k. I didn't pay into my retirement like I should have. And, I'm retired now, but, I come up short by the end of every month. And, because of that organization, I thought I'd die before 60, so at Armageddon, and yeah, they're a destructive organization, and they need to be shut down. They really do.
Well, I do believe that it will all happen in the right time. Remember, I hope you take comfort in Luke 8:17, even in the New World Translation, for there is nothing carefully hidden that will not become manifest. Nothing hidden that will not become manifest, nor anything carefully concealed that will never become known and not come out in the open. And that is a promise from the Lord himself. And you know what? That scripture is so coming true. And I remember from the platform so many times hearing, and it's a scripture, I don't know where it is, but the brother would say, remember, God is not one to be mocked, for whatever a man is sowing, this he will also reap. What has Watchtower been secretly sowing behind their money scams, their manipulations, their crafty words, the manipulating of God's own word, which they say they respect, lying to the rank and file, and like Rick says, 6 screens. It's all about the 6 main curtains that they're hiding their evil behind. It's all coming out. It is all being exposed. It might not be happening fast enough for us, but if we look back in the last 25, 30 years, it has slowly been coming around to where they basically painted themselves in a corner. They've already set themselves up all pretty. They're telling everybody else, pack your go bags, have a plan, have somewhere to go. You think they're worried about go bags? They already built their compound with every need. They're not looking out for the rank and file, the faithful. They are making sure that they're sitting pretty. And, oh, by the way, don't forget to donate. They always need more money.
Yes, ma'am. What they are is a corporation. I actually became a union guy I worked for the railroad, and I became a union representative for a while. And I kind of got pushed into it. Everybody trusted me. They liked me and they trusted me, so they wanted me to do it. And I kind of at the last minute, I said, okay, I'll do it. I did a lot of traveling, and I went to a lot of conventions. And after that, I learned what these corporations were doing with people. And then it was after that I got out of that position. I learned, wow, this is Watchtower. This is what they're doing. I mean, they're just a corporation trying to make a bunch of money off a bunch of people that they're lying to, and they're cheating. And it was unbelievable. People were going out in service. They're spending their own gas. They're spending their own time, and they're selling books and magazines to people, and it all goes back to Watchtower. And then, you know, I've known several witnesses. I know one gal that her father gave his life savings and his house to Watchtower. And
oh, so many have done that, and it's so sad. Listen, I hate to interrupt you, Jeff, but we are very short on time. In fact, we only have about 6 minutes. I would like to invite anyone who has been waiting to speak to go ahead and come in now. And I always was hoping that Rick would have a few points to share. I didn't mean to cut you off, Jeff. I've enjoyed listening to you so much. Anybody else like to comment? Yes.
Anne Marie, it's Joe from Colorado.
Hello, Joe. How are you?
Good. I'll be real brief. One of the effects of my post-traumatic stress, I cannot be around paint. And a lot of that, when I was about 6 years old, we were painting the basement, and I tipped over some paint. And I got probably the worst beating I ever got. Again, this was by a man that was in good standing, that was supposed to have a love for people. Well, anyway, my problem is I have such a low self-esteem, along with the anxiety of being around paint, but I have such a low self-esteem, I don't think I'm capable of doing, like, even work around the house. I put in a new smoke detector the other day. I was so proud of myself because I always feel like I'm going to fail. I don't feel like I'm good enough to do anything mechanical or anything like that. Yeah. And Simon didn't let me, he didn't teach me anyway, but that was part of that post-traumatic stress. And it stays with you. So that's all I wanted to say. Really great program tonight. I'm going to let somebody else talk.
Well, I'm so glad you came in and brought up with that. It is a really nasty thing to deal with. If anybody has something to say, they haven't had a chance to speak, please do feel free to come on. We are running very short on time, but I want to give you the opportunity. Star 6. Does anybody else want to speak who hasn't spoken? Hello. Hello. Hi, who's this? It's Constance. Hey, hello. Hello. I'm right here.
Are you? Is it okay if I speak?
No, it's not okay. Go away. What's on your mind, love?
Well, it's my first time calling. I'm from the Northwest.
What's your name, sweetheart? Oh, I thought you were somebody else. What's your name, sweetheart?
Bobby.
Oh, Bobby. I thought you said, I heard something else. Well, I'm glad you came on, Bobby. What's on your mind, sister?
Well, 100 billion things, but we'll just keep it short. One thing that I was noticing when I look back, I woke up in 2016, is I just remember starting to go to the meetings and I would have panic attacks. And I would just start crying. That's how mine manifest. And I often look back going, God, why? Why was I like, I just couldn't keep it together towards the end.
Aww.
And just sorry. Whew. Just calling makes me anxious. But it's interesting and it's wonderful to hear everybody's stories and how we are all affected. And I do really love your guys' work.
We love you too, Bobby.
I mean, I've been diagnosed with complex PTSD for, not just that, but that's part of it, right?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, and it's kind of amazing. So I just kind of wanted to just get my toes wet and just say hi. Yeah. I don't know what else to say, but I do still struggle, with panic attacks when I run into people.
Oh, don't we know that one? How awful. How do you deal with it?
Yeah. I really don't even know. I think it's just so immediate and visceral or whatever that I just recently am remarried. But he doesn't really get it, but you know, I don't know how I deal with it. I'm getting better at it. I mean, I look at the person, I kind of want to see if they're going to purposely ignore me or not, but I'm also shaking inside.
Oh,
And,
I know. I know.
And living in the same area.
Yeah.
And also knowing that everybody, I got disfellowshipped, you know, and some drama around that within the family and the congregation. So, you know, I'm sure everybody has a different idea of what happened. So it's just tough, but it is really nice to hear other people's experiences. It gives validation. Granted, it's our pain individually, but when we are able to hear other people, it doesn't really make our pain go away, but I think it helps us to realize that we are human, that we all have very similar experiences. And just to learn to have patience with ourselves, I think, you know, and grace for ourselves. Now, I'm agnostic, but I do believe there is a God. But I do think grace is important.
Well, listen, Bobby, since we're out of time, listen. Are you listening? Listen.
I am.
I like you, and I think that it's a damn shame that we're out of time. Besides, you sound too damn delightful. I don't want to let you go. So, I want to know if you will just come on tomorrow, 6 Green Sunday at 11 o'clock Pacific time. We have a special time set aside by Rick just for you, people like you who just, you know, you have a lot to say, however it comes out. And it's just basically, you know, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses share their Watchtower story. You know, it's just about your time in the Watchtower. And Rick sets aside an hour every 6 Green Sunday, which is every other month, and it is tomorrow. And just think about it. It comes on 11 o'clock Pacific time. I don't know what time this time, but you know, it's the same number. Okay. I'm not asking for a commitment. I'm just letting you know that it just gives you time to just say what's on your mind and remember when Sister so-and-so did this and when that brother said that and how you felt when, and you know, you have the time. There's no time frame and you won't be interrupted. I'm good at interrupting. I've been practicing a long time. But I would love to hear your story. I just want you to know the opportunity is there. But if you feel like coming on, would be 11 o'clock Sunday tomorrow at 11 o'clock Pacific time. Okay? Because we are out of time on this show. Yes. Well, thank you. Because you sound, I want to hear what you have to say, girlfriend, okay? I'm selfish.
Yes, I would love to share.
All right.
I'll try to call again.
Okay, so just have in your mind, 11 o'clock Pacific time tomorrow, Watchtower, you know, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses share their Watchtower story or however you want to say it. And Rick gives you a whole hour to just say whatever. Okay, Bobby girl. First time caller. Because you sound like a hoot. You sound like somebody that says things I want to hear.
Okay.
Okay, so we do need to end the show now. Thank you, Bobby, so much for coming in. Bye. We are running late. Goodbye, my sister Bobby. I'm going to look for you tomorrow. We want to end the show. It was a great show. We're going to have to come here, do the rest of the show next, Touched by the Tentacles, in 2 weeks. We want to thank Donald from Texas for calling, for our dear brother Stephen, and of course our dear brother Joe called twice from Colorado. Thank you, Joe. We want to thank our brother Dick and our dear sister Susan and Kurt for calling in. Missed him. We want to thank Constance. We want to thank our dear Chris from Arizona. We want to thank Dean and RJ, who lives in the Midwest. Also want to thank Marv Maverick from London and our dear brother Jeff And lastly, our first time caller, a delightful sister named Bobby. We might get to hear her story and talk some more from her tomorrow on Six Screen Sunday at 11 o'clock Pacific time. But we do need to go to our dear brother, Rick, and JW World News. Rick?
Well, thank you, Anne Marie. Now, I just want to say, if Bobby's still listening, it's Eastern Standard Time. I don't know where she's calling in from, but Eastern Standard Time would be 2 o'clock. California behind us 3 hours, so it's 2 o'clock Eastern Time. So it'd be 11 o'clock. It would be 11 o'clock Western Time. Western Time. I guess that's what they call it, right? I'm getting confused. Yeah. Okay. So that's good. So Eastern Time is what we go by, so people don't get confused. That's New York, Boston time. Well, thank you, Anne Marie. Very good. Appreciate it. Keep the wheels moving, and we'll see you tomorrow here on Six Screen Sunday. And we don't want people to miss tomorrow's program either. We got good programming on Sunday. We take a little different view on things. On Sunday, we get into the scriptures. We get into theology, the false prophecies of the Watchtower. So if that interests you, and sad to say, it doesn't interest a lot of people, but I mean, you do have to talk about the false prophecies and the twisted doctrine that takes place in the Watchtower. So if that interests you, come in tomorrow, begin at 1 o'clock, right here on the Six Screens Telenetwork. All right, I'm going to end this program right here. Stay with us for JW World News. That's coming up next. Thank you, though, for coming in to this program.